Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast. This is our E3 predictions for PlayStation. As always, I'm joined by Dom.
Yahoo!
Jordan.
No who.
And special guest, Ian. Welcome back, Ian. Thanks for coming.
Hi, my pleasure.
We decided to have you on this year for PlayStation, and we're excited to have you here, listen to your exciting predictions, and talk about last year's conference. I know you're self-proclaimed you're self-proclaimed at not being very good at predictions, but can't wait to hear them anyways.
That's true.
Yeah, it happens. Most of it's luck, really. I think some people are just luckier than other people.
Well, and memory. It takes a lot to remember what's going on in the world and then extrapolate from that.
Memory or the time put into research. You either remember everything or you put in the research for everything. Okay, so the way we're going to do it is we're going to go over last year's conference really quick, touch on some keynotes. I have everything listed out here. We'll go in order. Feel free to chime in whenever there's something, and then we'll go over what we expect from this year's conference in 2017, and then we'll do our predictions. So last year's conference was actually really good. A lot of people didn't know if it could follow up 2015's really good conference that PlayStation had. And it opened up with an orchestral performance, which I thought was interesting.
Pretty epic.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's the first time I remember seeing that at E3. It probably happened before, but the way they went about it was really cool. Obviously that
it was the place that they were having it in was like a concert hall as well, so it felt like they were doing it at like the symphony or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Felt like Abe Lincoln was getting shot somewhere.
I think what they led the show with is probably one of the biggest surprises, not because we didn't expect to see God of War. We had all the leaks and rumors about it, but the tonal shift in the series. Seeing Kratos still being a bit of an asshole, but caring for this kid was really interesting. We were not sure if this was a vertical slice or how far along the game has been. After that initial like God of War reveal, what did you think about it, Ian?
It's the most interesting God of War's look to me ever, probably. Like
valid, yeah.
That kind of like hack and slash action stuff isn't normally what I go in for, and this one seems more grounded, and the story seems interesting. I wonder how much of it Kratos will be in, if you play as him or if he plays this kid, or what'll happen.
Yeah, like that's just the prologue. It's really interesting because like Kratos has always been a character that wasn't really deep. It's like he hates everyone. Okay, cool. He's an asshole. But like in that cinematic, the gameplay, they really gave him like more personality than even Master Chief has, and Master Chief has had 6 games. And like it's cool to see. I think this is really like Sony's kind of game plan, is to take a lot of their beloved franchises and make them more story driven and deeper, it was so weird to see, like, it was cool to see Kratos in like the Norse pantheon, surrounded in like these heavily wooded areas and stuff like that, but you never expected to see Kratos like that. Like, he had so much character,
I think I'm agreeing with all the positives that you're giving it, Jared, but I think the biggest worry that I had right off the bat watching that demo was the fact that it kind of, I think, added to the, I don't know what you would call it, like the Last of Us-ification of Sony's studios, where like Horizon kind of looks and feels like The Last of Us, obviously Uncharted 4, now God of War, Days Gone looks really similar in the way they feel in kind of like the lighting engines they use. I'm not sure if they're all using the same thing, but
okay, so you're just talking like aesthetically.
Well, aesthetically, but obviously, like, look at the
tonally.
Well, look at the camera, the way it shifted from the original God of War games are. You can't move the camera. They're already set in place when you run into a room, and it's usually like up in a corner somewhere. So this is like right over the back of his shoulder, looking a lot like the perspective of The Last of Us, for example. And so, it just feels like there. It definitely feels like there's some homogenizing going on at Sony.
Another good word.
I got heavy Tomb Raider vibes from it too, which I think is in line with everything you're saying.
Right. Yeah. Tomb Raider comes off of the Uncharted games, the way they do the reboot.
Right. So it's like, it seems like another game that I'll, play a little but won't beat.
Yeah, I mean, also I was hearing these weird things, and they were kind of talking about it. The axe that he throws, and he like brings it back to himself. Apparently, one of the gameplay design features is that you can throw that axe at the beginning of the game on the ground, and get to the end of the game and call it, and it will go all the way to you. Which is kind of weird. Yeah, that's one of the things they're selling on it. A really interesting thing too is when he activated his Spartan Chaos or Spartan Fury, or whatever it's called. You could have done the really easy thing where he had the Chaos Blades, but that wouldn't have made sense context-wise, Like, why would he all of a sudden have his weapons if he seems like he started a new life? So it was cool that they didn't do that. Like, they didn't just do the special move and then he has his weapons. Like, oh yeah, it definitely feels like that. I think it would have cheapened the moment. Showing vulnerability in his character was really cool, too, because normally the Kratos we knew would be, like, super pissed at that kid, and he was just like, you gotta learn. Like, he was stiff and stern, but he wasn't, like, the asshole that we knew him to be. Like, he didn't kill the kid. Next up, they showed off Days Gone. This was the first time we saw this game. We had heard Sony Bend was working on a game. I believe the first rumored name was Dead Don't Ride, which is an interesting name. We saw this.
Been cooler, I think.
I don't know. Dead Don't Ride sounds more like AA Just Cause 3's area to me.
Yeah, it sounds like a Road Rage like knockoff kind of game.
Kind of like what's the free to play Let It Die kind of sounds.
Let It Die territory. That game was a cool surprise. Randomly talking about it.
I loved it until I just hit the wall and then stopped.
Yeah, sounds like a free to play game.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with Days Gone is this is, out of everything that they've shown in their exclusive catalog, I think this has the least amount of personality. And it's not so much because it has zombies. Like, I'm a fan of zombies if done right. If you creatively, position yourself in a game where zombies make sense. But like with Days Gone, it just looked like a Daryl Dixon simulator. Daryl Dixon from Walking Dead. Like,
that's why I'm pumped for it, though.
It just doesn't. It didn't do anything for me. Like, it's cool. I don't know. For me, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, gone are the days where just putting a certain number of zombies on screen is gonna win me over wholly. Like,
oh yeah. Dead Rising's done that.
Can I point out and appreciate that you said "gone are the days"?
Yeah, I liked that too.
Gone are the days.
Like, when we first saw Dead Rising and you saw all the zombies on screen, that was super impressive. But now it's like, it's not. It doesn't. It is impressive, but it doesn't carry the same weight. It doesn't make the hair on my arm stand up the way it did.
Well, and I mean that's something that how impressive it is something we really can't judge until we play the game and we know whether or not it does. Like, it could just totally chug. Great, you have 3,000 zombies on screen, but I can only move 1 frame a second.
Yeah, also, for me, the character design, going back to the Daryl Dixon simulator, he's not very interesting, and it's not that he's a white dude. That's fine, he could be a white guy, but, like, he doesn't have a very memorable face. I don't know how to put that. Like, his design doesn't really do much for me. He looks like generic biker guy,
Yeah, he definitely looks like he just got pulled out of Sons of Anarchy.
Exactly.
Which I'm also okay with.
Dom's like, Daryl Dixon simulator, I'm down.
Well, I mean, like, that's I love Sons of Anarchy, Walking Dead, and zombie. Like, sure, shoot.
It's gonna be great when you pick up a crossbow in this game, and you're like, oh, it's on.
God.
I mean, I'm sure it's not gonna knock my socks off, like
the simulation
gameplay
is
or
on.
or gameplay or any other aspect wise, but I don't know. It could be some fun. That's how I'm looking at it.
We also didn't get a release date, which is weird. Not because, I mean, this was the first time we saw this game, but we had heard Sony Bend was working on this game for so long, or at least another game, and then it got canceled and they started working on this. But like, Sony Bend hasn't released a game in a while, so it was weird not to see a release date. We didn't get a release date at PSX either. Next up was Last Guardian. This game came out. It had an initial release date of October, and then it got delayed to December, which I think they pushed it as far as they could. And yeah, it seemed like a good game. A lot of people thought it was great. I didn't play the game, but from what I saw, it seemed like a game that didn't, like, performance-wise, it didn't, work so well.
It felt like it felt like it was real divisive. Like some people hated it and some people like loved it more than anything.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I think
I heard a lot of people talking about how it felt like, you know, a PS2 game. It felt like how Shadow of the Colossus, you're like, you know, hitting R and L and R and L to climb up a mountain, and it's like, why? Why can I not just push forward?
Yeah, don't you think that it probably suffers from the same thing Yooka-Laylee did, where, you know, Yooka-Laylee is for people who love banjo, not people who wanted banjo modernized. It's for people who love the same control scheme and the same kind of camera issues and stuff that banjo had. And if you loved banjo and you go and play Yooka-Laylee, you'll maybe not appreciate it, but you'll enjoy yourself. I think Last Guardian's the same thing with Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. I think if you're okay with the shortcomings of those games, you just wanted more of that. And I think that's why people didn't really knock it for a lot of the things that it kind of had going wrong for it. And like for me, I don't think it was a bad game necessarily, but from everything I saw, it didn't look like it was a 9 or a 10. But you know, everyone has their own opinions. I'm glad that game finally came out, though. At least we don't have that gaming joke on the internet anymore of like, when are they going to show The Last Guardian? At least that's done.
It's nice. Right. It's nice that it's in the past.
Exactly.
The problem is that it felt like it was from the past. Like if that game had come out, if that game had come out 7 years ago, it would have blown my mind, you know. But the fact that it came out now, it's just like And Shadow of the Colossus is like one of my favorite games ever, you know. So, and I just did not like this one at all.
I think it's the same reason why we're not playing Half-Life 3 at this point, because that game, the way they've designed it like 4 or 5 times now, is built for a different era, you know?
Yeah.
Next up, another game that came out, Horizon Zero Dawn. We saw more of this game, which for me, obviously Horizon Zero Dawn ended up being a great game, but it seemed like we got this game a lot. Like we got it at E3 the year before last year, or PSX. Then we got it at last year's E3. Then we got it at PSX. It was crazy. Horizon Zero Dawn was initially supposed to come out last year, and then it got delayed as well. I don't think there's any much to say that hasn't already been said. It came out to great reviews. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. Next up, Detroit Become Human by Quantic Dream. This was interesting. I think this was a cool way of presenting the game to people who aren't familiar with Quantic Dream of there's different outcomes for a game, and showing the multiple outcomes and not having it stretch out and giving you an understanding of the game. Super heartbreaking. Like the whole tone of the beginning of the show was super somber. You know, where the guy's like, I trusted you and you lied to me, and he's like dying. It's like, whoa. I think it's interesting because depending on how this game is, if it's more of a Beyond Two Souls or if it's Heavy Rain, right? And depending on which Quantic Dream is developing this game as far as the direction of it.
I think it's clear, Jared. I think we're getting the Heavy Rain one back.
I hope. I liked Beyond Two Souls. I know I'm probably on the the minority there, but like I like that game as well. But like Heavy Rain was a completely different product. Detroit Become Human looks interesting. I think it's definitely hitting. You know, they say a lot of times horror and sci-fi kind of mimic what's happening in current day. And as we're getting closer and closer to us becoming one with AI and stuff like that, I think those fears are growing. So having a game centered around, and I mean, it's been done for a while, but having the AI around, right? I think is really interesting. I love Ex Machina. It's one of my favorite movies. And if this comes anywhere close to that as far as AI and the Turing test and that kind of stuff, it's going to be really cool. Do you guys think this game's coming out this year?
No.
Probably not. Unless we see like a huge thing at this E3, then maybe.
Yeah. This is just possible. One of those games like I think they're willing to wait on it and sit on it until it's absolutely ready.
Sure. I guess it was announced Paris Games Week 2015.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, I know it was Paris Games Week. I think it was, and I think they only did that once. So yeah. I just think Quantic Dream is one of the studios like Kojima Productions or Polyphony Digital that just, they'll get that game done when they get it done.
That's the vibe I got too.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it is this year, it'll be end of it, like holiday.
Yeah, man, this year's already so packed. I don't know if that's a game that. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sony is a little bit smarter than EA is, and if they see a stacked holiday, they're not going to try to force the game in there, you know.
Especially not a Quantic Dream game.
Exactly. Next up, we had one of the coolest reveals. Everyone had known about the kitchen demo. They showed off kitchen. They went back to the house. They're looking at it. And then it's after like a montage, it's revealed. You see the 7 pop on screen, and then the Resident Evil fade into the 7, which was one of the coolest reveals I think for a game. Oh man!
Well, and one of the best like graphic design typography things I think I've ever seen, and the fact that they used the non-Roman numeral but like alphanumeric 7 for Biohazard, part of the Z. Like, in the other versions, like my God,
that's cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. The top part of the Z is a 7, and I'm just like, they got both. Oh my God, it's so good.
The great thing is, not only was it met with a great reveal, it was a super quick turnaround of us knowing about the game to the game coming out. On top of the fact that it was a good game, people were scared that this was going to be back to the old Resident Evil, of, kind of mediocre.
And it's the first AAA VR game.
Yeah, that is true. Playable from front to back.
Full length, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say. Well, I should say, it's the first full length VR game.
Yeah.
A critical darling. It's great to see Resident Evil going back to its horror roots and not so much action anymore. I really hope. We're going to talk about this. Probably want to talk about the EA conference in a couple of weeks or so. But I really hope Dead Space does that too. I think that horror is big right now, especially with the success of Outlast and stuff.
Don't tease me, Jared. I just can't. I thought it was going to be last year, and I just can't do that to myself again.
Are there rumors, or is it confirmed that we're getting another Dead Space?
No,
I think we're. I don't think we're.
It's like I hadn't heard anything.
I'm just dreaming. Really quick here, let's go through some of these that aren't.
Or Evil Within 2, though. That's happening. Probably.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, Evil Within. Anyways,
real quick, Resident Evil 8, is that first person?
Oh, do we think it's going first person? You would have to imagine.
I mean, are they just doing that now? Because it's weird, right? They've had all these spin-offs, but instead of making the spin-off series, the new perspective, they changed perspectives in the 7th main franchise game. So, I guess, are they just switching to first for 8, 9, whatever, or
I think so,
or what?
I think it's a strong call just because of the success of first-person horror games now, and I think it lends itself well, and I think it's a good way of reaffirming that you're changing the series, right? Because 5 and 6 left such a bad taste in people's mouths that you want to distance yourself as far away from that, I think going first person helps that a lot.
Plus they're picking up with the PT promise, where that left off. Exactly. It showed that you could do that on consoles, because first person horror had been largely the domain of PC for a while, and then PT came out and you're like, whoa, okay. You can do that kind of atmospheric thing, and it's even scarier. It's so terrifying.
It's interesting to me because I don't know did PT come out before the first Outlast?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Because around the same time, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting to me if it was one of those things where Outlast came out, PT came out, and then PT inspired Outlast 2. Obviously, it inspired Resident Evil to quite an extent, but it's really interesting how Outlast I think is a very important game that people don't talk about as far as rejuvenating a genre. And it's cool that, like you said, first person is viable on consoles now. So I'm super excited about that. Hopefully Resident Evil 8's first person. Next up, we're going to go through some things that aren't really super important because I want to get through the stuff towards the end here.
But Outlast was first.
Outlast was first? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought so.
That was September 4th, 2013. PT was August 2014.
Oh wow. So we had PSVR talk. They basically came out and talked about the release and the price, and they showed off some games. There was the reel with Farpoint and the X-Wing VR mission and Batman. Excuse me. They had the Final Fantasy 15 trailer. Final Fantasy 15 obviously came out last year. They had the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare trailer. Sean Layden then came out on stage and talked about how they were remastering the first 3 Crash games from the ground up. At this point, we didn't know it was the Insane Trilogy, but that's what it came to be when they announced the title at PSX. And then they showed off some weird Activision Imaginator stuff, Lego Force Awakens. This was kind of like the filler section of the show because the beginning of it was so strong. And then they actually finished
section.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got to pay the bills section.
Exactly. And then Andy House came out and announced Kojima was coming out on stage, and he walked out on that light. I don't know if you guys remember the light panel that was like the boardwalk, the carpet rolling out for him. Super cool. We got the first.
Also, I don't remember if that was the first time he was Andy House instead of Andrew House, because he used to be Andrew House and everything.
I think he is, and Jared's just saying that.
No. I remember we made a
PS4
point of it.
Pro event, I think, is when he first got called Andy House.
Okay.
They had it on the bottom.
Whenever it was, I don't remember when it was, but I remember there was a change, and I was like, Andy House?
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
He's gone casual.
Exactly. So yeah, Kojima came out on stage, showed off that really cool announcement trailer for Death Stranding. Really weird. We didn't know what we were saying. We saw Norman Reedus for the second time at the conference because we saw him in Days Gone. And then, we had the weird baby. The baby disappears. And then we had all of the theories come out about, was the baby Metal Gear? Were the 5 things representing the 5 games? The hole in his chest was at them taking the baby from him, his thing. Like, there was a lot of weird theories about how that trailer didn't even have a connection to the game, but it was Kojima's message of him being freed from Konami, but them taking his baby. Really interesting stuff. Since then, we had the trailer with Guillermo del Toro, with him under the bridge with the tank, and Mads Mikkelsen, which was really cool. I'm good for Death Stranding. I really hope we don't see it this year. Not that I don't want to see more Death Stranding, but that game's so far off, man. I don't want the breadcrumb trail of Death Stranding. Then we had Spider-Man for PS4. We didn't know we were going to see Spider-Man necessarily. There was a rumor that it was actually being made by Sucker Punch. We end up hearing Spider-Man's voice, which happens to be Yuri Lowenthal, and we find out that it's by Insomniac, not Sucker Punch. Looks really cool. It's an exclusive from Marvel. Really interesting. It didn't have a title, and people still think that this game's coming out this year. For me personally, it not having a title at last year's E3 is kind of a tell to me that it's not coming out this year, but it could just be like, hey, they just didn't have a title yet. We talked about this with Detroit Become Human. Do you guys think this game's coming out this year? Spider-Man?
Let's save it for the other section. I might have something to say.
Pause. And then, so this was probably one of the most interesting parts of the conference is there was the Days Gone gameplay demo at the end, and it seemed a little weird. It seemed a little awkward. After the conference had ended and E3, had finished, people were talking about how, was this forced in? Was this a last minute change? There was rumors that it was supposed to be Red Dead 2, and then because of the Orlando shooting and stuff, they didn't feel really good, finishing their show with somebody getting shot, which is a weird rumor and could be true, but Rockstar doesn't really show up at E3. So I think there was just hearsay, rumor, speculation kind of stuff. Overall, I think it was a solid conference. Some people think it was better than their 2015 conference. I think you can make an argument for either or. I think it was a really solid conference, though.
I just think as far as presentation goes, it's probably one of the best E3 conferences of all time. But as far as content goes, whatever.
Man, that orchestral opening and everything was so good, and the fact that they had little to no talking. They had sections, but for the most part, it was trailer, which was really good. It's so weird to me, and you think PlayStation's on cloud 9, they can't make any mistakes, and then you go and watch the PS4 Pro reveal event, and you're like, oh, okay, you're human, which was completely weird and odd, and hopefully Xbox learned from that. So that was last year's conference. Now we can jump into, we'll do the predictions at the end. We'll talk about what we expect to see as far as things that aren't a surprise. Out of the games that we saw last year, do you think we're going to see, obviously not Last Guardian Horizon because those came out, and Resident Evil and stuff, but all of the exclusives that we saw last year that haven't come out yet, do you think it's a lock that we're going to see all of them again?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you unfortunately, Jared, you're going to see some Death Stranding too.
And some Days Gone, yeah.
As Kojima himself has said, the game has already begun, and the slow trickle of breadcrumbs is part of the experience, Jared. Just sit along and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, Kojima's marketing is basically some kind of weird ARG.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be some weird trailer, but it's going to be...
has come too.
Yeah, it's going to be not like anything you really expect.
Do you guys think that anything we saw last year that didn't have a date, so pretty much all of their exclusives that haven't already released, do you think those are going to get dates for this year? We talked a little bit about it, but like, even if you don't think any are coming out, which one do you think is the most likely that's going to come out this year? If you had to pick one,
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I would say Spider-Man's the least likely. Even though I will say, you made a good point, Jared, that it could just be the title thing, and I think that game, even though it's not all of it, or I guess there was some gameplay, but it definitely seemed farther along than most games that don't have titles, So it's possible, but I think I'm going to have to go with Detroit because I think they're just going to delay Days Gone. I think they've got some stuff they need to work out, some kinks over there.
The really weird thing to me is like Sony has such a strong stable of JRPGs and just very heavy Japanese games, but yet they didn't show any of them at E3 last year. They waited to show Ni no Kuni and Nioh and all these games at PSX. Like, I really want to see Ni no Kuni 2 at E3, but I don't think we're going to see it.
Nah.
Yeah, exactly.
If anything, it would be a trailer, and that's it.
Yeah.
See, that was my argument last year, Jared, is because their conference was like 50 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes or something.
I think it was like, exactly an hour, yeah.
Yeah, it was like in and out, and I just didn't understand that. Like, show off Gravity Rush, show off Ni no
Persona
Kuni,
5.
show off Nioh, show off Persona 5. And the thing is, oh, well, those aren't E3 games. Well, when you're, just busting your hump to get all this, like, stuff jam-packed into an hour, then take another 30 minutes to kind of, talk about some games that wouldn't necessarily get the limelight, but they're worth talking about, and people are going to get them, as we've seen with all three of those games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we talked about this on something at Easy Allies too, but Japanese style games have had a bit of a renaissance recently, especially with Persona 5 and Nier. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they lean into it a little more than they have in the past, but I do still think it'll be like a section of trailers or
yeah. It's weird to me that we didn't even get anything indie last year at the E3 thing because everyone talked about PlayStation 4 is the console for indies, and it seems like the last couple of years or maybe just a year and a half or so, Xbox has been the one like, we have all these games for ID at Xbox, here's all of these games, and yeah, a couple of them like Below and Cuphead are staggering to come out, but
here's Cuphead and Below that you'll never get to play,
but at least they're still showing them. And PlayStation 4 especially when it came out was touted as, this is the box for developers, we're making it easy, we're gonna have all the indies, and they didn't even showcase them. So it's like, yeah, you have all these Japanese influenced games that Xbox doesn't have, but you don't even show them off at E3. You have all of these indies apparently, and you don't even show them off at E3,
And the thing is, they do have the indies, and it's like you said, recently Xbox has felt like the indie guys, right? But PlayStation's had Cosmic Star Heroine and tons of other, indie hits released just recently, just within this past year on PSN. So they're not, what it means is that they have the supply, they're just not doing a good enough job of, telling the masses about it.
It could be something on the business side too, especially think of like Persona 5, since that's not, Sony first party. Maybe they just didn't want to buck up for some of that space. Because like you said, Sony was clearly going for a short, hour in and out.
Yeah. And this is a mainstream, as much as it can be in the video games industry, this is a mainstream American industry event.
So maybe Atlas said, it's not worth it to us to show, Persona at E3.
Well, they show it. They're just not showing it on the stage. Like,
all
those games are still there. All these games that we're talking about are still on the show floor, but they just don't get the limelight on the conferences.
After the debacle of the PS4 Pro reveal, I highly doubt we're going to see any hardware this year. I would be shocked if we saw any hardware from Sony. It just doesn't seem like they do that anymore at E3.
That white PS4 Pro.
Do you guys think we're going to see any... Another thing that Xbox has kind of been killing PlayStation at recently is services. With Xbox Game Pass, the announcement of that, and backwards compatibility. Do you think we're going to see maybe an updated announcement to PlayStation now because it needs to compete more? Do you think we're going to see something as far as services go with PlayStation?
Yeah, that was one of my predictions from the end of the year last year, that sometime in 2017, something's going to change with PlayStation Now. And they've already started to do some changes. They changed the devices. They actually reduced the amount of devices it works on, which was actually the opposite of what I thought they'd do. I thought they'd want to get it on more smart TVs and stuff, and instead they just backed down. So I think something's going to change with that. I don't know how, though, anymore.
I don't think they're going to be focusing on PlayStation now. If anything, it would just be PSN generally. But unfortunately, I don't think they're smart enough to do that because, not because they don't want to talk about it, it's because they literally don't have any improvements to show.
Jordan, what if they did, they say, we're dropping free PS Plus games for PS3 or Vita, and adding PS Plus games for VR, like everyone's kind of speculating. That could be something they talk about.
People speculated on that, but I feel like you need to build out the VR library before you can start giving these games away for free, especially since, not for free, but for a subsidized amount. I think we're already seeing how these games are more expensive because of the fact that the install base is so small.
I think another interesting thing is what third-party partnerships are going to change. Developers want to have their games look the best they can on stage. I doubt Call of Duty's jumping ship. We're probably going to see World War II on Sony's stage. Maybe both. I don't know. We have Battlefront 2 coming out this year as well. I don't know if that's going to jump ship. And we also have Destiny 2, which I highly doubt will jump ship either. So that means that you have 3 third-party games that are probably going to be on Sony's stage. So they can actually not have to show maybe one of these games that isn't coming out soon, so they don't have to force it in people's faces again. So
and frankly, that's kind of, when you think about it, those are going to be, I think, undisputably the 3 best-selling games of this year. I mean, that's Call of Duty, of course.
Yeah.
Battlefront 1 sold somewhat 15 million copies in in its first year, something crazy like that. And then with the new Star Wars, that's going to do bonkers as well.
They'll be up there with Wildlands, yeah. Those Ubisoft
Destiny
games
might be
sell a lot.
Yeah, Destiny might be the question mark, but I think it'll do really well. So and I'm pretty sure, like you're saying, Sony has the marketing deals with all 3 of those games. So I'm sure we'll see all those.
The only thing that might screw that up is if Microsoft is trying to push the Scorpio so hard that they shelled out money to get those announcement exclusives to just be like, look how great this is on the Scorpio, blah, blah, blah. If Sony does talk about hardware or services, I hope that they just go, the PS4 Pro is a little cheaper and PSN Plus is faster, or PSN is faster.
PSN is more reliable. Your download speeds are way improved.
If
you
they
can
said
actually
that,
change your name.
Like if they literally said, hey, we charged you $10 extra and we actually applied that to making it run better, they win. I'm like, they could not announce another game at all, and they would just be like, okay, cool, thanks.
It's so funny. We talked about this almost on a weekly basis, Ian, of how PlayStation has nailed software so well, right? They have the IPs, they have the exclusives, and Xbox is doing everything in their power with services and stuff like that, and they're knocking it out of the park, frankly, with a lot of the stuff they're doing. It's very consumer-friendly, it's very gamer-focused. And if they just had the IPs, they'd be untouchable. PlayStation, if they just had all of their services and shit in a line, they'd be untouchable, Yeah. It's just funny that they both have these giant, holes in their armor. It's really funny.
Yeah. Can't these two see that they're in love with each other?
Exactly. And then you would think Nintendo would come in and do both, but no, it's Nintendo.
Nintendo's not going to do what... Nintendo's going to do whatever the hell it wants to do.
Sony.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens with those third parties. You're right, Ian. If Microsoft shells out a bunch of money, people tend to forget too the relationship that Xbox has with EA. So if any of those are to move, I would probably say Battlefront 2 is the likeliest, just because Xbox has EA Access, and they've had Mass Effect, which was an exclusive for the 360, and they've had a tendency to work well with EA. So I wouldn't be surprised there.
It's worth noting that they were still, in Sony's court for Battlefront 1 and had all the DLC and exclusive content over there, but they still had the EA Access thing going on Xbox with Battlefront.
Exactly. They even had a custom Battlefield Xbox. So
I think we're going to see as much Star Wars as they can possibly shovel at us. There's going to be Star Wars at every single thing, 3-4 times probably at Microsoft. EA is going to be entirely Star Wars. It's going to be Star Wars everything.
It's also going to be interesting to see if we see, really quick, Dom, you can go in, if we see the Square Enix deal with Marvel, any immediate cinematic trailers or anything, and who gets those for the Avengers game, for the Guardians game, it's going to be interesting to see if we see those at all. Remember, because those are announced, 3 months ago at this point? And the partnership between Square Enix and Marvel, where Crystal Dynamics is working on a game, and so is Eidos Montreal. So it's going to be interesting to see if we see any of those and who gets those. That's going to be cool, too. Go ahead, Dom. Sorry about that. So I think that covers everything of what we expect to see and stuff like that. I think we're going to head into predictions now. This is my personal favorite part. Not because we're going to get them right. It's just cool to see what everyone's perspective is on what could happen. I think the way we're going to do is we're each going to do one at a time. Each of us have 3. Since you're the guest, Ian, you can go first. Just let us know what your prediction is, what you expect it to happen, and yeah, go for it.
I don't know if this is a hope or a prediction. It was rumored in a leak, but I mean Bloodborne 2.
Oh, do it.
Come on.
Do it.
Come on. I would pass out. I would just pass right out.
Ian, I think it's happening.
Missed the trailer.
Really? Yeah.
So From has released a game every year going back to, I think, 1996 or something like that. I was reading an article where they've released a game every year. So if Bloodborne 2 is announced, I hope it comes out this year, but they also have a track record of releasing all of their Souls games in March. So I could see this being March 2018.
Jared, they also just released Dark Souls 3 DLC this year, technically.
Yeah,
so
true.
Stay off the hook.
And the collected edition.
Yep, the Fire's Fade, or whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah, it's something like that, where they used Agnes Obel in the trailer, and it was awesome. One of my favorite artists.
Do you think that Bloodborne 2 will take the Dark Souls 2 route where it's not... the lead isn't Miyazaki?
My hope is that he's the lead on this because he says he's done with Souls.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or they might go the other route and do, like there wouldn't be a Bloodborne 2, but there'll be like they jump to a different time period or different genre of some kind, like Civil War Souls or like Space Souls or Revolutionary Souls or whatever. Like. But I definitely think that there would be space for a Bloodborne 2 because, I mean, minor Bloodborne 1 spoiler upcoming, but like, taking the canon ending of the first game and making that the final boss all grown up of the second game would make a lot of sense.
What did you spoil about Bloodborne?
The ending, the real ending.
You didn't say anything specific.
Exactly. I spoiled it in a way that it's only spoiled if you already know what I'm talking about.
And frankly, that's a hard game to spoil because I don't know. I probably played that 100 hours, got the platinum. I really don't understand the story hardly at all. So
I think the Souls and Bloodborne are like those games where it's up to you to be interested enough to like look at the lore and stuff like that.
Yeah, you gotta watch some Vati videos.
Yeah, I mean they discovered the blood of the ancient ones in the Thumerian labyrinths, and then they started splicing with themselves. At first it was great, then it started mutating them all, so they had to start doing hunts, and then they're like, oh, messing with Cthulhu blood is bad news, haha.
The only reason I don't want it...
that was a great plot summary for Bloodborne. Dom, that's all you need.
Basically that's it.
Yeah. The only reason I don't want it to be Bloodborne 2 is because I love the Souls game so much, and the last thing I want is another one to be exclusive. So I really hope it's just another From game that's, console agnostic. But for your guys' sake, I know how much you guys like Bloodborne.
Bloodborne's worth getting a PS4.
Yeah.
I think Ian can agree.
So I think I'll go next. So Bloodborne 2 is our first prediction. For me, I'm looking through here. Which one do I want to throw out here? Okay, so this is an interesting one. One of the biggest surprises for me as far as games that came out of left field was Until Dawn. I was looking at Supermassive, and it doesn't seem like they're currently working on anything that they've publicly announced. I would love if, maybe not an Until Dawn sequel, but a game from Supermassive in that same vein. The butterfly effect storytelling, maybe take it to a different area. Maybe it is a direct sequel, I don't know. But I think that game was really well done, and I think it didn't do well commercially because Sony didn't push it. And Sony makes these weird decisions sometimes where like they have a really good game on their hands and they just don't market it, and it's just like,
hey, let's put out Until Dawn right before Halloween and not let anybody know that it's on store shelves.
Exactly.
And it's awesome.
That game is it lived and died because how streamable it was, and how shareable it was, and people wanted to see how
that
people
was the
played
problem.
through it. Yeah.
Like, we did an entire stream in our pajamas of the whole game. Yeah. And then it was like, well, now we don't have to ever play that again, and neither do you.
Yeah.
Right, everyone who watched you, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So I guess my prediction is Supermassive has a game that's either a sequel to Until Dawn or in the same vein where it's Butterfly Effect. I think that'll be my prediction. I hope.
I think with Rush of Blood, that's a telltale sign that you're getting Until Dawn 2 for sure.
I hope so.
And I mean like a sequel. It's not just a spiritual successor or something.
Yeah. So mine wasn't too crazy or anything like that.
That would be kind of crazy if it took your data from the first game and any character that lived through it shows up in the sequel, but any character that died is dead. That would be hugely ripply.
Well, the crazy thing too is they didn't have crazy big actors, but they had Hayden Panettiere and I always forget his name, the guy from Mr. Robot.
Rami Malek.
Yeah.
Rami Malek.
I don't know if they can afford him anymore because he's kind of blown up since then, but it's going to be interesting to see if they have any other, actors in there. That's my prediction. We can go to one of you guys, whoever wants to go first.
All right, I'm going to jump in. I think this one's a lock.
Oh, confident much.
Something from Battlefront 2 in VR.
Okay.
That's because we got that,
X-Wing mission.
Year, but yeah.
I think you're totally right.
Whatever. They did a VR thing for Battlefront, just, Battlefront 1. So I think they're going to try to push that again, and I have a little bit of doubt just because we haven't heard them push anything VR recently, it seems like. But I can't see them giving up on it quite yet. So I think that we'll see something in that vein. And it seemed like the first one was pretty cool, and more importantly, I feel like I watched an interview, and the developers at least they acted excited and thinking like it was really cool tech, and they like working on it, right? So I think we'll see that. I think that's kind of a cop-out guess, but yeah, that's what I got.
It's an interesting thing because the X-Wing mission came out kind of late after Battlefront came out, and I think you're right. They're going to try to spearhead it at the beginning and give you another incentive to buy at launch and another incentive to have PSVR. So it makes complete sense. Dom, that was a good guess. What's or prediction rather, not really a guess. I guess kind of a guess. Jordan, what's your first prediction?
So, boys, it is about that time for the world's greatest studio to reveal their next game.
No, stop.
Sucker Punch will be revealing a new third-person action RPG. And what we're looking at here is something similar to Horizon Zero Dawn in the sense that, Guerrilla was making Killzone games, and then they jumped to this way other, bigger, awesome deal with Horizon. And Sucker Punch has been making these open world-ish, they're like more like sandbox games with the side mission structure is nothing like an actual RPG or an actual like open world superhero game. It's like not even like, it's like way more simple than even Arkham Knight would be. And so this is going to be the real deal third-person action RPG, just like Horizon is. And I don't know if it's going to be Infamous. I don't think it is, because this isn't what Infamous is. This is a little bit different. And I definitely think that like Sony's only going to keep going with Infamous so long because it's a cool franchise and there's a lot of hardcore PlayStation people that love it, but it's certainly not one of their franchise that sells big. Once again, because they don't know how to sell it, just like Until Dawn and Gravity Rush and Ni no Kuni and Neo and blah 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 blah. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking here. I think that it's time. Sucker Punch has had enough time. Infamous First Light came out in spring of 2015. And they haven't done any VR experience or anything since then, so it's time. Very excited. Favorite studio.
Ian, what's your second prediction?
Oh, so we're just not going to talk about that at all?
I think, Jordan,
you nailed it.
It's been a while since we've heard it's been a while since we heard from them, so I think you're right. They're definitely going to show something, I guess.
But I guess what I want to hear from you guys is, what do you guys think the Sucker Punch game is going to be once we see it?
I would bet Infamous, what would it be, 4? 3? Yeah, that would be my guess. Or they might call it something different, right?
Yeah, Infamous, third daughter of the second light of the first morning.
Sure. Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised either way if it was, like you said, something completely different or another Infamous game. Yeah, but I bet you're right. I think we'll hear from them.
Yeah.
My thing is, if it's not an Infamous game, I think it's going to be another partnership with Marvel.
Oh. Damn, dude. That'd be hardcore.
Yeah. I just think that they fall in the same camp as Eidos Montreal. Like, they have this franchise that a lot of people love, but they didn't know how to sell it well. And yeah, they probably want to work on Infamous still, but guess what? That doesn't pay the bills. We're going to put you on a licensed kind of thing, you know? So now, obviously, Eidos is working on the Avengers game and the Guardians game, so Sucker Punch might be doing that as well.
The only reason Sucker Punch is first party Sony, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the only reason I don't think that's possible, just because. Well, then again, though, we got Spider-Man exclusive to PS4, so maybe Marvel would do that.
That's Insomniac.
It is exclusive.
Second party.
Yeah, Insomniac's kind of second party-ish.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, you're right. My point holds.
Okay, now that we've discussed,
but that is a good point. I think Sony would want to own it.
I appreciate.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a valid counterpoint to the whole Marvel thing. Is they probably want to do something that they own. Who knows? Maybe From didn't want to work on Bloodborne, and Sucker Punch is doing Bloodborne too.
Damn, that'd be crazy. I mean, that's not what I want at all.
Me neither.
They're working on Bloodborne, and I don't want. Like, I want them to make something other than that, and they're not the people to make it, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, Bloodborne and Souls shouldn't be touched by anybody but From. But Sony owns that IP, so.
Well, I think we're probably about 6 or 7 years from a non-From Souls or Bloodborne game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
Now that we've discussed, Ian, what's your second prediction?
I think they're going to do another orchestra, but they're going to shift it up somehow. I think there's going to be fog machines, laser beams, and possibly indoor pyrotechnics.
So, what's that VR game you played on Easy Update with your buds?
The
Kyle and Brandon?
Where you throw the beer on stage and stuff? I think it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yelling at people.
I can't remember what it's called right now. Stage presence? Yeah.
Yes,
stage
presence. There you go. Yeah, something like that.
God.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that, like a fake out of some kind.
Do you think they're going to shift, like you said it's going to be shifted up, do you think they're going to change tone? Because last year was so somber. Do you think this one's going to come out with like a superhero theme, like very upbeat, and we see Spider-Man first? Like, maybe not Spider-Man, but do you think it's going to be more upbeat, or do you think it's going to be somber? Like, what do you think the tone's going to be for the orchestra?
Sony, I think, likes to be classy.
Yeah.
You know,
like
PS3 started with an orchestra tuning up. You know, like I think that they're gonna keep with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also mix in a little like I wouldn't be surprised if I see somebody in a tux base jump off a building or something. You know, classy but edgy and funny. You know,
orchestra starting up. This guy jumps off a building.
They're gonna shake it up. They have to at least maintain or outdo themselves now, because they reinvented what it means to do an E3 presentation. Everybody else better take note from last time, because like they changed the game. Like they raised it to a new level, and said this is just about pumping out announcements, being classy and having fun, and not, talking about teraflops and back end.
And boy, did they dodge a bullet, because imagine if they decided to lump in that PS4 Pro thing at E3. How bad that would have turned.
I think that Sony is like just bad at managing hype, right? Like sometimes, that's true. I mean, like look at No Man's Sky is the perfect example, but like the hype for the PS4 presentation, I think, exacerbated by their E3 presentations quality, had everyone expecting one thing when they should have just said, this is a PlayStation 4, presentation not a big event. It's just like a shareholders informational briefing. If they'd called it like a briefing, I can't remember what they actually called it, but like
meeting.
They needed to, meeting. Well, meeting is pretty boring. They should have stressed like this is going to be just a very, very dry informational briefing. They should have like said that ahead of time.
Or had somebody else handle it like Xbox did. I think that was brilliant. Having Digital Foundry just be like, yeah, here's the specs if you want them. So, as far as my second prediction, this one's kind of bold, but you'll see my reasoning. I think that they're going to announce a Spyro remaster in the same way that they did the Crash one. And I think it's kind of tough because I would expect this more so at PSX maybe because of my reasoning of the success of Crash. And I don't mean obviously the commercial success because it hasn't released yet, but the goodwill that Sony got of showing people that they're willing to go back and remaster these games. They even did that with Parappa, obviously. But I really think that they're going to come out and be like, you guys love we know you guys love Spyro too. You guys love Crash. There's a bunch of people that love Spyro. It doesn't seem like those games... It seems like a pretty quick turnaround, right? And if people really are invested in it, and if it sells, then that can give him the idea of going back and visiting Spyro, going back and visiting Crash. I think it's a low-cost investment on what could possibly turn out to be really good returns. So I'm going with we're going to see an announcement of a Spyro remaster. Probably not named, but they're going to be like, we're working on something kind of like what they did with Crash, where it's like, we're doing complete remasters of Spyro 2 from the ground up. You'll hear more about it later kind of thing. That's
so I don't think that's going to happen for a couple different reasons, because I think the only reason the Crash remakes are happening is because I think that the fan fervor was just so hot that they had to do something about it. Like Sean Layton literally just wears a Crash t-shirt because it's a PlayStation franchise that he probably digs and at the conference, and so everybody thinks that they're doing it, and then like fucking PlayStation Saudi Arabia or whatever tweets out a picture of Crash, and everybody's like, oh, they're getting a new Crash game. So the fans were freaking out so hard about Crash that I think they had to do something, which is why we got so little information about them redoing Crash last year until they were able to name it and give us some more footage and all that. And then on top of that, we have the Skylanders entanglement. Yeah. So, of course, Sony doesn't own Crash or Spyro, but they can go to Activision for Crash and say, hey, we want to pay you this much, whatever, and they're like, yeah, I don't really give a fuck because Crash isn't doing shit. But if Activision isn't probably going to want to muddy the waters too much with the Spyro franchise, even though Skylanders is not nearly as much of a thing and Spyro is less and less a big part of Skylanders, I still think that's a franchise that they want to keep like narrow, just doing Skylanders. So that's why I think we haven't seen any Spyro games, because I think we would have seen another Spyro game by now.
People said that about Crash though too. I just think that it's such. I don't think it's that much of an investment. And I think Activision, we've seen what Activision does. They're willing to just make money. They want to do whatever it takes to make money, right? At the cost of good favor or good fortune. This one's not much of a prediction. It's more of a dream because I love Spyro so much. It's how everyone felt. I love Crash too, but not as much as Spyro. So I understand your arguments there. I hope it happens, but I do see where you're coming from, where it's highly unlikely. Dom, what's your...
a Croc Gex Spyro mashup game?
Damn.
Oh, God. Just call it like Lizard Land or whatever.
The Lizard 3.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Don, what's your second prediction?
So I got one. We touched on it earlier, but I do think Spider-Man does come out this fall on PS4. So there, one of the Marvel guys, I don't even remember what his position was, in conversation said, "Oh yeah, it's coming out this fall," or something along those lines. And Insomniac tweeted back, I'm not exactly sure, but they said no release date has been announced yet, right?
Yeah.
Which immediately everyone says, oh, well, it must not be coming out in the fall. But, I mean, if you look at the wording, they did not confirm or deny anything, really. They just said it's not been announced. So I think, the plan was to time it up as close to this movie, which comes out this summer, as they could. So I think, that's what they want to do, and that's what they've been aiming for. It might end up getting delayed, if it's not done yet, but I think that's the goal. And I think Insomniac was more just trying to control the marketing themselves, whereas, Marvel is used to, they're in the movie industry where, you announce things way ahead of time and it's just whatever, right?
I think what happened there was the guy was a host of one of Marvel's general ass YouTube channels or YouTube shows, where it's just like, here's what's happening with Marvel this week, here's the comics, here's the movies, here's the games. And so that guy is very, very far removed and really not even high enough up in Marvel itself to know what the fuck is going on. I just think that guy had no clue, and he's like, oh, I heard there was Spider-Man Insomniac game coming, so.
Yeah, he could have heard it between 10 people or something. It might be nothing, but regardless of that guy, I still think that's the goal, is to get it out this year. And frankly, also because we talked about, Sony's exclusives, getting jammed in the fall when they can't compete. I think Spider-Man is a game that could compete.
Oh yeah,
in a September, October range, whereas, a Days Gone would get demolished in that. So that I don't know. I just got a vibe. I think it's coming out this fall.
We don't know if Insomniac's the only ones working on it. Remember when we heard the rumor that Sucker Punch was initially working on it? What if Sucker Punch is helping on it? And that's what,
Good point.
Fuck that. This ain't no goddamn Call of Duty Activision bullshit.
You never know. I could really be that they doubled down on it because they wanted it to come out so close to the movie that they put more manpower on it, and Sucker Punch might have been working on concepts or early development on something.
That would not make me happy as a Sony lifetime customer.
They're working on an exclusive for you. I don't know why they get you mad.
Well, because Insomniac's got 3 fucking studios, and I think they can handle it themselves. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be angry at you, Jared, but I'm just like, if you're Sony, Jordan, why are you upset?
Yeah.
Because Insomniac can clearly handle it. Shuhei, just let Sucker Punch do their thing.
He wants the Sucker Punch, the infamous sequel. That's what it is.
Yeah. And like I said, Insomniac, do your thing. They should be working on Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank 2 by themselves.
Yeah, as long as they're not working on a second movie, because that thing flopped.
Don't. God, you're just stabbing me in the chest.
I'm sorry. Anyways, well, you can give us something positive. What's your second prediction?
First of all, I'd like to give you something positive. A lot of people wrote the Ratchet and Clank movie off, and it's absolutely worth seeing whether you're a fan of the series or not. Second of all, we're getting a Horizon DLC trailer. Now, this could pop a day or so before the conference. So this is kind of a risky prediction, I would say, because this may not be something that they want that is big enough for E3, but at the same time, I kind of feel like it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is big enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's too. DLC is the only thing. It's not a full game announcement, but yeah, I think I think the only reason it wouldn't be there is if it's there, if it comes out before the trailer for the DLC comes out before. So yeah, I'm gonna say they're gonna have a DLC trailer for Horizon. It's gonna be heavy story. You might see gameplay of her using a new slingshot or a new ammo type or something, but I think it's mostly gonna be really thick story because I haven't finished the story actually, but it seems like everyone who finished it thought the ending was either cool or at least intriguing in some sense, whether they liked it or not, and that it could definitely be propelled into something else. Obviously sequels are coming, but I think the immediate string tying of the plot could be very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting where they take that with DLC, because they could do the Last of Us thing where it's like a prequel, because you get her when she's little at the beginning of the game, but they could do something somewhere in there. They have a lot to work with. So it's gonna be interesting if they tack it on at the end or if they tack it on before, or what I mean. It's gonna be interesting.
I think that's a nice little in the middle, some peanut butter between your bread.
Ian, what's your last prediction for us? You got the orchestra. You got Bloodborne 2.
Yeah, this one's a little in line with the second one. This is just about the presentation. I think that at some point a 3-story LED wall will turn red, like blood. Like blood will come down it. either for Bloodborne or Code Vein or one of these. Like vampires might be involved, but yeah, I think some large amounts of something are going to turn red at one point or another during this press conference.
It's like, Ian, what do you think's going to happen in next Sunday's football game? Well, there's going to be a mascot on the side of the field, I'm pretty sure. And I'm thinking one of the cheerleaders might actually toss her pom-pom up in the air. It's like Ian's just predicting the most random shit. Like, so what's going to happen at the video game conference? Well, they're going to have this really cool orchestra, and there's this 3D wall behind them with blood.
Real specific.
That'd be awesome, though, man, just to see it all
what
filled
about
with
the
red.
games?
Yeah, well, and someone might walk on the bottom half of it, like Kojima did.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Yeah. That'd be really cool.
Because they have the LED wall. They're using it. They're going to use it.
Put it to use. Something.
Yeah.
We want to see blood come down. Carry style.
I think you got something here. Ian, I think you got something here, so much so that I'm wondering why you're here and you're not working for Sony planning their conference. But
so, this is a little bit against the rules. Jared, could I tack a little bit onto Ian's prediction of what I think will happen?
Sure.
So, we've got this 3D LED wall, right? And then, you know how they have those walls, but then they have like doors built into the walls, so like the middle of the wall will just slide out, kind of like the thing that Kojima had going.
Yeah.
And so basically what's going to happen there is the middle of the wall will slide out, but you still have the blood coming down like an arch shape around these two people, these two figures, lit from the back. Then all of a sudden they're lit from the front. It's Shuhei and Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Whoa.
Get out. Stop.
From Nintendo of America. They're shaking hands, and then all of a sudden Shuhei jumps back, and Reggie has no idea why he's just, getting away from him all of a sudden. And then the way the blood's dripping on the screen, it just drips all over Reggie. And so it's like, does that make sense how like it's dripping down the screen, but then an actual bucket of blood drips on Reggie's head?
Yeah. Just doing a carry.
And then Shuhei gets up to the microphone. He's like, "It's Goat's blood."
Oh God!
What the? You just went somewhere.
I don't think that part
the
will
last
happen.
part. Maybe Shuhei wouldn't tell everyone it's Goat's blood, but yeah.
Jesus
Shuhei
Christ.
is too nice. Shuhei is too nice to do something like that.
God. Anyways, moving on from that. My last prediction here is something that we haven't seen for a while, but it's rooted in a lot of evidence. So, during one of Capcom's financial calls, they were listing all of the games that are coming out this year for them, right? They had Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite on there. They had a couple other games. But they had this really big thing that said, Big Untitled Release 2017. Haven't announced what it was.
Sunday.
A game that we haven't seen for a while, that is published by Capcom, that would make perfect sense to be seen at PlayStation. I think we're seeing Deep Down. I don't know if you guys remember Deep Down. It was at the PlayStation 4 reveal event. I think Deep Down's
Is that after the
back.
Agent re-reveal?
Oh, God. I think Deep Down's coming out this year. It has a lot of Soulsy kind of vibes to it, and I think this game has maybe been done for a little bit, and they were waiting for the right time. And I think now we're possibly not going to be seeing a Souls or Bloodborne for a very long time, or at least a couple of years. I think that this is a perfect time for them to get this out there. So yeah, I think we're going to see Deep Down again. I think it comes out this year, and I'm also doubling down or tripling down. I think it's coming out in October. I was looking at the schedule of game releases so far, and we don't really have anything in the month of October. So I think that'd be a good place for them to position themselves. So I'm going to go with that. I think Deep Down comes out this year. It's going to be shown on Sony's stage, and it's coming out this October.
What if they shadow drop it during the press conference?
Remember, I don't know if you guys remember, Deep Down was initially pitched as a free-to-play game. And then it was supposed to come out, and then they said that the vision of the game and the scope of the game changed, they actually extended the development time. So shadow dropping a free-to-play game would be crazy. Yeah. Really interesting. I really think we're going to see this game. Hopefully. It's either that or it's going to be like Devil May Cry. But I hope it's Deep Down.
The guys think there'll be a Devil May Cry.
I don't know if that's going to be...
Them boys over there at the Allies.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's one of those things that... Devil May Cry is one of those things that I think Microsoft could shell out money for it to show up on their stage. Because DMC was on Xbox. So I don't know if they shell out the money for
DMC 4 was on Xbox, wasn't it?
Well, it was just called DMC. No, it was just called DMC, though.
Oh, you're talking about the reboot. I was thinking, because I was actually going to say they didn't start doing DMC games on the Xbox until 4, and then they had the reboot. So that does mean, like, now there's, precedence, I guess.
Exactly. It just seems like Devil May Cry is one of those things where I could easily see Microsoft like, hey, we want that on our stage, right? And that'll get goodwill in the gamers. And it's totally different than a lot of Microsoft stuff, so that can make sense. But back to PlayStation, like I said, I think Deep Down's coming out this year, and I think it's going to be shown off on Sony's stage. And it's going to be a re-reveal. I think it's going to look like a completely different game for the most part. So a Shadow Drop would be cool,
about Scorpio, Jared?
What do you mean?
You're like, back to PlayStation.
Yeah. Dom, what's your third prediction so we can close out the show? And then
all right. Well, someone had to do it, so I'm going to do it. This is more hopeful and more of a dream than anything else that's been said or will be said. The Vita 2.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Half-Life.
You're really reaching. I thought I was reaching with Spyro. Oh my god.
No, it won't be called the Vita 2. It'll be called. I'm not creative enough to think of something on the spot, but it'll be something weird. Something weirder than Vita, which I still don't totally understand. Be about this, a little bit smaller than the Nintendo Switch. No detachable controllers, of course, nothing like that. No dock to the TV.
We getting them R2 L2s?
Yep, definitely. Regular set of triggers. Otherwise,
clickable sticks.
Yeah. You
L3,
know what?
R3.
We'll throw the clickable sticks in there too. We don't no sacrifice between the DualShock 4 and this guy.
Those are the two main things that are keeping you from that always wanting to do remote play or whatever,
Right. And I think, a good old little wireless chip in there so remote play is usable. More usable. It's not too bad on the Vita as it is now, but that's it. I'm putting it out there. I'm not going to go into it any deeper than that.
My biggest concern with it is I think it's the Spyro thing with me where you would like to see it at E3, but if it were to ever happen, it's more of a PSX thing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I think what's going to happen here is Sony is going to skip out on a generation of handhelds and then see what the climate is like after, basically like when we're going into PlayStation 5 territory, and then Nintendo's probably gonna have a new console out around then, and then I think Sony will reassess, and it might be way more of a thing because technology has advanced so much and people are on the go more, or it might be less of a thing and they just don't want to jump back in. So I think if anything, they're gonna jump out for a few years. But they're definitely not out for good and absolutely won't have the, Vita namesake on there.
Yeah.
So, I'd like it if they went back to PlayStation Portable because that was fucking dumb to get away from PlayStation Portable. It was a great name.
I guess we can close out now. What's your final prediction, Jordan?
All right, so here's the big one, guys. I mean, obviously, Sucker Punch is a big one, but I just didn't have... That one was more of a vague prediction. This one I'm pretty specific on. I think we're about to get a WB Montreal DC licensed game. Either Justice League or Superman specifically. Those two, for sure, I think. One of those is a lock, because... it's time for a Justice League game. The Justice League movie's coming out. They finished the Batman Arkham series. Not that WB Montreal is Rocksteady. I know they're different, but the Batman Arkham series has been finished, I should say. And it definitely seems like they were at least working on this at some point. Or I should say, WB Montreal was definitely working on a Superman game at some point. There's lots of leaked concept art. There's lots of the job postings that you see on LinkedIn or whatever, where someone's like, oh, well, I did motion capture for this thing, whatever. It definitely, if you want to look hard enough, there's plenty of evidence to show that WB Montreal has been working on a Superman game, and so maybe it is full-on Justice League, and we've only seen the Superman bits, but I'm thinking it's Superman just because there's, his specific villains, and it's in Metropolis, the stuff that we've seen. So that's my prediction, and I think it's got to be getting close to WB Montreal revealing their next game, right? So
yeah, I think it's a solid prediction. I think my only concern is I don't know if it's going to show up on Sony's stage, because that's one of those games too that seems like Microsoft could easily shell out money for it to be on its stage. Also, depending on how jam-packed Sony's thing is with its own exclusives and content, it's like they already have, we talked about earlier, they already have Destiny 2 more than likely, they already have Battlefront 2 more than likely, and they already have, what's the third game I'm missing? Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
So yeah, but this is a license that you make room for, and also I would just say that Sony already has a lot of, like exclusive content and stuff going with Warner Brothers specifically. They have the, content first on was coming for Arkham Knight, and then you have obviously Arkham VR and stuff like that. So they have that relationship going.
Yeah, I could see Battlefront 2 moving to Xbox and then this game taking that place. I
think they have both. I don't.
That means that's 4 third parties though, and that's like, unless Sony's just willing not to show one of their first parties.
I think they blew their load on first parties last year, so I think we're going to get mostly third parties this year, because they don't have... You can't just do the same thing. You can't just show the same games that you showed last year minus Horizon and Last Guardian or whatever. So I think maybe they're actually going to have a lengthier conference, that has extra time. But I just think that, if you've got fucking Activision, Warner Brothers, and EA knocking down your door for Call of Duty, Battlefront, and a DC game, those are all 3 licenses that you want to have on your biggest stage for your biggest moment with the brightest lights. And I would be, and Destiny, and I would be, shouting that from the highest towers about, look at this, dude, the biggest games have the exclusive content on PlayStation, plus we have these awesome first-party exclusives, plus we've got these awesome indies. I think that's how you hit them from all sides.
Also, something you just reminded me of, that another third party that I would not be surprised if it was there, is if CD Projekt shows something of Cyberpunk.
God, you guys are teasing the fuck out of me today.
Microsoft shells out so much money so that's on Xbox's stage. They have the partnership with Gwent. Is Gwent on PlayStation 4?
I thought so.
Well, yeah, it's just in beta though, right?
Yeah, I thought it was on everything, or going to be on everything.
Yeah, but it came first to Xbox One, I think, though, right? The beta came first to Xbox One and PC, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Possibly. I know that they revealed it on Xbox's stage. That's important to know.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I think we'll see Cyberpunk, probably, maybe.
Oh, I hope.
See, I'm thinking that's another year out before we even...
you might be right.
Well, I mean, they've had a trailer out for a couple years now, so
that
to
trailer
keep
was
extending...
like 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, to keep extending the actual reveal of the game almost does kind of seem dumb. And they did just put out Witcher DLC last year, but The Witcher itself came out in 2015, so it's...
Well, and they hired, like, their company's way bigger now, so who knows?
Yeah.
It can go either way.
Just a quick counterpoint to what you were saying, Jordan. Not necessarily against them having all those third parties, but like you saying they might not show the stuff that they showed last year. I think you failed to see how often Sony's willing to show the same stuff over and over again. Look how many times we've seen Death Stranding in such a short time. Look how many times we saw Horizon Zero Dawn. Look how many times we saw Last Guardian. People talk about these companies showing games over and over again, but like PlayStation is one of the worst offenders of this. They show stuff over and over.
I don't necessarily think I would agree with those examples. Last Guardian, they held until they absolutely had to bring it back out, and then showed it to you twice.
3 times.
Released, and then...
they showed it 2015 PSX, E3 2016, PSX 2016.
I guess, but at least one of those was just a trailer, correct? I'm talking about, like, demos.
Oh, trailers are still the same to me of showing a game over and over again.
I disagree, because, like, that's... If I'm saying they showed that game on the stage, I'm talking about, like, an actual demo, and that's why I was going with Horizon, is that I don't think they showed enough of that game, because people had no idea how awesome that game was. They were just kind of like, oh yeah, this is going to be a good solid game. It looks like, Guerrilla's got their head on straight after Killzone, but the fact that we saw this fucking the giant Dinobot battle from 2 different angles at 2 different conferences. So I wish they had shown more of that game.
Yeah, well, agree to disagree, I guess. That's been our conversation for PlayStation's E3 conference for 2017. Thank you, Ian, for joining us. We have plenty of cool predictions.
My pleasure.
I hope we get a couple of them right. I think last year in total for all of our predictions, we made like 20-some total, and we got 3 or 4 right. And there was a lot of half points in there. Half right here, quarter right here.
Yeah.
Playing the betting game. I think that's pretty much it. Ian, you want to plug where people can find you?
Oh, yeah. I'm at Ian Hinck on Twitter. Check out Easy Allies at easyallies.com or Patreon/EasyAllies. And we stream on Twitch, too.
And all the VODs go on Easy Allies Plays, right?
Yeah, the Twitch stream archive goes on Easy Allies Plays on YouTube. And then otherwise we're just youtube.com/EasyAllies for our shows and stuff.
I would like to specifically shout out the new Easy Allies movie podcast, which you guys just did the first episode. It's monthly, correct?
Yeah, second Friday of every month. I'm actually shooting the next one tonight.
And it's called Reaction Shots. I thought that was a really great first episode.
Thanks.
Talking about world building and lore and stuff with Huber. I loved it. So.
Yeah, tonight's or the upcoming one is about magical realism. At the time you're listening to this, there will be a couple more episodes out. But yeah,
which is something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and I'm really excited to hear that conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll have plenty more E3 coverage with predictions with other guests and stuff like that. So definitely subscribe. Follow us on iTunes as well. That helps. Unfortunately, we don't have a Patreon. One day, maybe. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys. Thank you again, Ian, for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next time.